Hi, this is Albert Grande from pizzatherapy.com and pastatherapy.com. I'm going to show you how I make my pizza dough. The first thing I do, I want to proof my yeast. Now, talking to people, this may be an unnecessary step. I'm a creature of habit. I've done this for a while. Now, the first thing I do is I add my yeast. I used to add 4 teaspoons, but the way I'm going to do it today, I'm just going to add 2. I'm going to make my dough the day before and proof it in the fridge, so you don't really need that much yeast. So I start with 2 teaspoons of yeast. I add 2 teaspoons of sugar, and again, some people say don't put sugar, you shouldn't put sugar, but I do. I'm a creature of habit. The next thing I do is I have my water here, and it's real important that you have your water heated to about 100, 105 degrees. I have my little thermometer here, as you can see. It's about 100 degrees, and I just add it to my yeast mixture, and then I mix it up. I'm going to set it aside, and I'll add it to the dough later on. You can just add your yeast directly to the dough without this step, but again, I've been doing it this way for so long, I've modified it a little bit. So I'm going to let my yeast proof for a little bit, and then I'll add it to the dough as I get going. And I've added a half cup of water. Okay, here's the next step for making pizza. In this bowl, I've added 4 cups of flour. And again, if you are a baker, or you want to be exact, bakers use weight rather than measurement. But this is homemade pizza, so I just added 4 cups of flour. I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of salt. I have a 1/4 cup of olive oil, and you could omit this totally. Some purists feel that olive oil isn't good in dough, you shouldn't use it. I don't know, I've always made my dough this way. I think it tastes pretty good, so I add 1/4 cup of olive oil. As you see, my yeast mixture has really started to activate. I add that to my dough. Got a little bit of yeast here that didn't dissolve. Add that right in. And then I add a cup of warm water. And I just mix. And I get it going. And I mix it in a bowl with a fork just to get all the flour absorbed. And the next step will be to turn it out and knead it. I then sprinkle a little flour on my board, and I'll mix the dough right on top of that. And I put it on my hand so it won't stick. I've got my dough all encompassed here, and I just add that on the board. And then I just knead it. And this process takes approximately 8 minutes or less. You could do it up to 10 minutes. You're not going to hurt it. And you'll kind of feel when the dough is ready. You just keep kneading it and working it. And again, as I said, some purists say don't add sugar, don't add olive oil, and you don't have to. My take on dough is whatever tastes good to you, and that's the kind of dough you should make, what your preference is. And you can experiment with this recipe. The big thing is that you try to make your own dough, and I think you'll be quite amazed and quite pleased with yourself at how it turns out. Because making dough is not that hard. You just have to make sure that you work the dough well. And the temperature, as I said, isn't even that critical. You don't want your water too hot. But people like Peter Reinhardt, in his book, one of the Legends of Pizza, Bread Baker's Apprentice, talks about just not even using any warm water, just doing a cold ferment for the dough, and that's fine. That's fine. And so, as you can see, the dough is almost ready for the first rise. And what I'm going to do with this dough is, I won't be using it today, to make pizza, I'm going to put it in the fridge and let it proof overnight. And I think that will really impart a great taste into your dough. People that make pizza will find, like me, that it gets easier over time. So your first attempt at dough may be a struggle, but you'll find the next time it'll get much easier. And again, the hardest part about making pizza dough is the cleanup. And there you have it. From pizzatherapy.com and pastatherapy.com, my name is Albert Grande, and I say, pizza on earth, goodwill to all. Go out and make pizza. Hold on a second. There's more. Okay, I've got my dough going here. As you can see, it's well kneaded. And I'm going to put it in this plastic bag. I put in a little bit of olive oil, just so it won't stick. And I'm going to put the dough in the plastic bag. And here's how I'm going to let it proof overnight. I put a little more olive oil on. I like the taste of the olive oil that really imparts in the dough. I'm going to let this rise for a little bit, but even that wouldn't be necessary. So you put it in the plastic bag. Here's a tip. You can close the bag, but remember that as the yeast activates, it's going to be giving off gas. So you don't want to close the bag or it'll explode. So you leave a little opening there in your bag when you put it in the fridge. Make sure that it's well, moist and well covered with olive oil, so it's not going to dry out. Now, what you can do with this dough also is you can let it rise, and then you can put it in the fridge, and you can use it for 3 to 4 days, and I've used it that way with no problem. Also, what you can do is freeze it. And I've used frozen dough up to 3, 4, 5 months that I've frozen and pulled out. So that's kind of cool. You can make all your dough ahead of time, freeze it, or make a big batch of dough and freeze it, and then use it later. It will not rise as much when you thaw it out from being frozen, but it'll still taste great. So, Albert Grande, again, from pizzatherapy.com, pastatherapy.com, legendsofpizza.com. I want to tell you to check that site out, legendsofpizza.com. Okay, thank you very much. Pizza on earth, goodwill to all.